$800 million. Say that number slowly. $800 million. That is the estimated value of the narcotics pipeline that federal prosecutors say moved through Harlan County, Kentucky. Not despite the sheriff's office, but because of it. Because of the man behind the badge. Because of the deputies who swore an oath and then cashed a check. Because of a network that stretched from a county basement all the way to a set of names that federal prosecutors have not yet made public. Names that sources close to this investigation tell us will shake this region to its foundation when they are finally released. Tonight, you will watch a system unmask itself, slowly, methodically, and completely. This is how it happened. It begins before sunrise. Not because federal agents prefer the dark, though darkness has its tactical advantages. It begins at 5:12 in the morning because that is the precise window during which the target location has the fewest personnel, the fewest witnesses, and the fewest opportunities for anyone inside to make a phone call that cannot later be explained to a grand jury. 41 agents, FBI, DEA, a specialized unit from the Department of Homeland Security that does not appear in any press release from this operation. 3 vehicles in the parking lot of a closed grocery store 2 miles from the sheriff's office. Engines running, lights off, at 4:55 in the morning. Waiting. The operation commander, a 17-year FBI veteran whose name appears in the court record, but who we are not identifying tonight, gave the go signal at 5:11, 1 minute early. Federal documents note the discrepancy. They do not explain it. At 5:14, the front entrance of the Harlan County Sheriff's Office is breached. 2 agents take the records room immediately. Not the evidence locker, not the commander's office, the records room first. That sequence matters. It tells you what prosecutors believe they would find there and how quickly they believe someone might try to destroy it. 4 more agents move toward the evidence locker. The DEA tactical team, 8 agents in full gear, move directly toward the basement. We will return to what they found there, but not yet. At the same moment the building is entered, a separate team arrives at a residential address 7 miles away. Sheriff Dale Murchison, 16-year veteran of Harlan County law enforcement, 3-term elected sheriff, a man who had his photograph taken with 2 sitting governors and a United States senator, is taken from his home in handcuffs. He does not resist. He says nothing for several minutes. Then, according to the arresting agent's sworn affidavit, he asks a single question. The question is not about a lawyer. The question is not about his rights. According to sealed court documents, the question Sheriff Dale Murchison asks, standing in his driveway in the pre-dawn dark of a Wednesday morning, is this: did they find the ledger? They found the ledger. What investigators found in the basement of the Harlan County Sheriff's Office was not supposed to exist inside a public building. Behind a door that county blueprints identified as a utility closet. A door that had been reinforced with a steel frame and secured with a biometric lock not listed on any county procurement record, not authorized by any county budget, and not visible on the building's official floor plan, was a room. A room that federal documents now describe in clinical legal language as a parallel operations center. 3 monitors, a dedicated server, air-gapped from the county's official network, running encrypted software that federal analysts would spend 6 weeks attempting to fully access, a filing cabinet with no county markings, and a paper ledger, handwritten, in a coded shorthand that took forensic accountants 4 months to partially decode, that cross-referenced dates with what appear to be court docket numbers, shipping manifests, and a series of initials that prosecutors have declined to publicly identify. And then there was the wall, a corkboard, 8 feet wide, covering the length of one side of the room. Photographs, names, dates, handwritten notes connected by red string, the kind of organizational system that in the movies belongs to a detective. In this room, it belonged to the criminal. The names on that wall were not gang members. They were not known associates from prior arrests. They were a county judge, 2 city council members, a state assemblyman whose district borders Harlan County, a hospital administrator, and at least 2 additional names that federal prosecutors have, as of this broadcast, explicitly declined to release, citing what one senior FBI official described to this network off the record as an active investigation into a system inside the system. What broke this case open, what transformed a regional narcotics inquiry into a federal RICO indictment, was something far more mundane and far more devastating. A series of deleted emails. Emails that were not, in fact, deleted. They had been routed through a private server registered to a property management company in Lexington, Kentucky. A company with no listed employees, no physical office, no verifiable revenue stream, and no web presence beyond a single registration page. A company that existed, on paper, solely to receive and forward wire transfers. 11 of them, over 38 months, totaling $2.3 million. Federal forensic analysts from the FBI's cyber division spent 11 months reconstructing the full chain of those communications. What they reassembled was not simply a record of criminal coordination. It was a scheduling system, a calendar of protection. Specific shipment dates correlated with specific shifts. Specific routes correlated with specific patrol assignments that had been quietly altered in the department's official scheduling software. Alterations that, on their own, would raise no flag, but that, mapped against the ledger and the shipping manifests, described a choreography of corruption that had been running week after week for nearly 4 years without a single federal interdiction. Follow the money. It is the oldest instruction in investigative work, and it remains the most reliable. In this case, the money moved through 6 shell companies incorporated across 4 states: Delaware, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Nevada. 3 of those companies were registered under names connected directly to Sheriff Murchison's family. His brother-in-law, a man with no prior business history, held a controlling interest in a management consulting firm that billed no clients, held no contracts, and deposited $340,000 in a 14-month period. His wife's maiden name appeared on an LLC tied to a Lexington real estate holding, and his 19-year-old daughter's name, a college sophomore who, by all accounts, had no knowledge of any of this, appeared as the registered agent of a dormant import-export company incorporated in Delaware in 2021. The federal indictment traces the full arc of the pipeline: $800 million in narcotics proceeds, primarily fentanyl and methamphetamine, moved through Harlan County over 47 months. The drugs entered through a corridor that regional law enforcement had long considered unusually clean. A stretch that generated fewer seizures, fewer arrests, and fewer tip line calls than comparable corridors in neighboring counties. Investigators now believe that quiet was manufactured. Patrols were redirected. Traffic stops were discouraged on specific roads during specific hours. Informants within the department were identified, and, in at least 2 documented cases, their identities were disclosed to individuals outside law enforcement. This is where your tax dollars enter the story. The Harlan County Sheriff's Department received $4.1 million in federal grant funding during the same 4-year period the pipeline was operational. Grants explicitly designated for narcotics interdiction, for community anti-drug programs, for the purchase of surveillance equipment and communication hardware that was, according to the federal indictment, subsequently used not to catch drug traffickers, but to monitor federal law enforcement, to track the movements of DEA vehicles, to flag the names of agents assigned to regional investigations, to intercept, when possible, the frequencies used by federal field teams operating in the area. The sheriff's department was not fighting the drug war. It was running counterintelligence against the people fighting it. And it was doing so with money that every tax-paying American in this country helped provide. Among the servers recovered in that basement room was a log file, a surveillance log, time-stamped and categorized, recording federal vehicle movements over an 18-month period. Cross-referenced with it, a separate file containing the names, photographs, and personal vehicle descriptions of 12 DEA agents assigned to the region. This was not amateur corruption. This was infrastructure. This was an organization that had studied its pursuers, mapped their patterns, and built a system specifically designed to outlast them. It very nearly did. 31 individuals face federal charges tonight. Among them, 2 deputy sheriffs who are alleged to have directly facilitated shipment coordination, a county magistrate whose docket, federal prosecutors allege, was selectively managed to delay proceedings against individuals connected to the pipeline, a bail bondsman who appears in the ledger under the initials RT, a man who, court documents allege, ensured that certain arrested individuals were released on bond within hours, regardless of the severity of the charges. 3 individuals identified in the indictment only as logistics coordinators, and Sheriff Dale Murchison himself, facing RICO charges, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, misuse of federal grant funds, and the charge that federal prosecutors describe as the most grave, charges related to the death of a confidential informant, a man whose body was recovered from a reservoir outside Harlan in March of 2022, a death that local authorities ruled accidental, a death that federal prosecutors say tonight was deliberate, was ordered, and is documented in the recovered communications. There are families in Harlan County tonight who lost someone, not to a gang, not to a stranger, to a drug supply that moved freely through their community because the people paid to stop it were the people moving it. Mothers who buried sons, fathers who buried daughters, elderly residents who went to church on Sunday, paid their taxes on time, and trusted that the man with the badge and the elected title and the photograph with the governor was, at minimum, not actively working to destroy the community he was sworn to serve. Those people deserve to hear tonight that the federal system, the real one, the one that does not answer to county politics or local loyalties, did not forget them. It just took 3 years. And tonight, it arrived. What broke this open was not a surveillance breakthrough. It was not a wiretap or a confidential tip from a rival organization. It was a junior deputy, 18 months on the job, a man in his late 20s whose name we are not disclosing for his protection, who made one phone call to the FBI field office in Louisville on a Thursday afternoon in the autumn of 2021. One call. He did not know at the time whether anyone would listen. He did not know whether his call would be flagged internally. He did not know when he hung up the phone whether he would have a job the following morning. He made the call anyway. That call is the direct reason that 31 people are in federal custody tonight and that the pipeline through Harlan County is, as of this morning, dismantled. Sheriff Dale Murchison will be arraigned in federal court on Thursday morning. He has entered no plea. His attorney, reached by this network, declined all comment. The 6 shell companies have been frozen by federal order. The accounts have been seized. The servers are in the custody of the FBI's Digital Forensics Unit at a facility we are not disclosing. And the corkboard, the wall with the names and the red string, is in a federal evidence room where it will remain until the trials begin. This investigation is not finished. The names on that wall that federal prosecutors declined to release tonight, those names are not protected because they are innocent. They are protected because releasing them now would compromise proceedings that are, according to sources with direct knowledge of the case, already underway. The pipeline that ran through Harlan County was not the only pipeline, and the system inside the system that the FBI described to this network did not begin and end with one county sheriff. We do not know yet how far it goes. What we know tonight is that someone somewhere in that network is aware that the ledger is in federal custody, and they are waiting to see what name gets called next. We will continue to follow this case as the sealed record opens and as the arraignment proceeds. The American people, and the people of Harlan County above all, are owed a full accounting of what was done to them, how long it lasted, and who allowed it to continue. That accounting is coming. It will take time, but it is coming. If this report moved you, if what you heard tonight reminded you of why accountability matters, why the federal system exists, and what it costs when the people inside it betray it, leave one word in the comments below. Just one. Justice. Not for us. For the families in Harlan County who needed someone to say that word out loud in public on their behalf. Say it for them. This has been a Crime News Federal Investigation Report. I'm your anchor, and we will be back.